Hello, everyone. Welcome to Speak Up, Sis Talk Radio, the show where Christian authors share their stories through their books to inspire you to speak up and share your own story. I'm your host, author, inspirational conversationalist, and spiritual life advisor, Angel Charmaine. Today, I have invited Erica Warren into the Speak Up Sis space to talk with us about her new anthology entitled In Spite of It All. My goodness, y'all, I have actually read the anthology, and it is a compilation of different women's stories of how they went through and they made it through in spite of all they had to deal with. You all are in for a treat today. So let's go ahead and welcome Erica to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio. Welcome, Miss Erica Warren, to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio. Thank you for accepting the invite.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Miss Angel Charmaine. Yes.
That's what's up. Listen, I love having these conversations. I just do. I love reading and writing, and I love being able to create a platform for all of us to be able to just share the words of our testimony, because that's how we overcome, right?
Yeah, it's very refreshing to connect with other people, but even more so other women who share the vision, who understand what it means to share your story, to inspire others to share theirs. And I feel like we already know each other, like listening to your stories and your testimonies. That's the beauty of this, is because then you start to feel like this girl is my sister and I never met her before, because you feel like your experiences are so much in alignment with theirs. So you can really identify with people like that.
Exactly. I feel you. I'm like, oh, people say, Angel, everybody's your sis. I'm like, no, I don't call everybody sis.
Right.
I call everybody sis. No, I don't.
If you're being your real, authentic self, everybody's not going to identify with you, and it's perfectly okay, because you're not going to identify with everybody else either.
Exactly. That's what's up. All right. So, sis, here we go. We are here to talk about your new work. You've got a book that is going to be coming out. It's actually in the pre-order phase, and I've already pre-ordered my copy.
Thank you.
Don't know me. I'm going to support.
Yes.
So I pre-ordered my copy, but I believe it's an amazing work, and it's an anthology of women's stories, and it is called In Spite of It All. Correct?
Correct.
All right.
And the title came, my publisher asked me what did I think a good title would be. Mm-hmm. And I came up with that title because in spite of it all, everything that came against you, everything that you thought was meant, to break you down, and to take you off of the path, actually pushed you up and propelled you further. And I wanted to get a bunch of women together who had a story of, in spite of it all, I'm still here, I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm wiser, and I'm ready to share my story with the world. That's
what's up. I love it. It. So you led this project, is that correct? Or
right.
You have some team members? Is it you and someone else, or you got a partner, or was this your brainchild and you just sort of solicited other women to come along?
Yeah, this was my brainchild, and I started, reaching out on social media, on Facebook, asking other women, do you have a story you want to tell? Do you have something that you've overcome in your life that you think other women would identify with and would benefit from hearing your story? And that's basically how I got everybody on the book project, is posting on Facebook and asking through social media. And they were inboxing me saying, I'm interested. And that's how it got started. And we had a cutoff. We only wanted 25 women, but I think we ended up with 30. Wow. And I kept telling my publisher, like, I'm ready to cut it off. I'm ready to stop. She was like, well, let's see if we get a few more, because, sometimes people will come in and then they might fall off or they might change their mind. So you'll have some extra backups in case. But we ended up with about 30 women.
Okay. All right. So there are a few questions that I do want to ask about the actual process of creating the anthology, but I'll, if I can remember, I'll save those to the end. What I would like to spend the majority of our time doing is talking about the work itself, and of course, talking about your piece, because you're also in the anthology, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. So if you don't mind, you share with us about your story.
Okay. So I thought it was important to share my story because a few years ago, I really came to the realization and admitting to myself that I had daddy issues my whole life. The absence of my father really played a big role in how I conducted myself, in the relationships I found myself in the way I viewed myself, and, how I interacted with the world. And once I came to that realization, I looked back on everything and I realized a lot of the relationships I was getting in was just to try to fill that void, to get that love from a man figure that I didn't get from my father. And it left me with a lot of regret. It left me with a lot of, feelings of rejection and failure. And it was just me repeating that cycle over and over, trying to chase the love of my father. So I think so many women can identify with that. A lot of us don't even realize that's the stem of the issues that we are facing. And if we get to the root of it, we can pluck that root out and then start to heal, from that point on.
I agree. Oh my goodness. That sounds like a little piece of my own story. I can totally understand just looking for the love that you would typically receive from your father, and looking for that in men.
Yeah.
The man.
I can remember back like it was yesterday when my mom and my dad split up, and he called my mom to say he was going to come pick me up and take me to go shopping and spend the day with him. And I got dressed and I waited for hours and hours and hours, and he never did show. And that started to breed like a sense of, resentment, bitterness, and a sense of, I can't depend on any man. It's got to be, if anything is to get done in my life, it's got to be me. I can't let other people disappoint me anymore. And so at a young age, I became very fiercely independent. I wouldn't let anybody do anything for me. I didn't want to ask anybody for anything. I will always say, if I can't do it for myself, then I don't need it. And I didn't even realize that was stemming from, my hurt and pain of not having my father in my life.
I'm glad you brought up this idea of being fiercely independent. It's something that I talk about. So you know that this is a Christian radio network, and I'm a for sure God girl. I like to make sure people recognize that.
Yes.
But I have brought up this idea of being fiercely independent as well, because for different reasons, I also sat in that place at one point in my life. And I believe that it is definitely a trick of the enemy. In studying God's word, I have learned that God he didn't create us to live independently from him or of other people, but that we are supposed to be dependent on him, and we're created to work together. But I do believe that for many women, especially African-American women, and I'm not even going to say women of color, I'm going to say Black women who live in America.
Yes.
We have been bamboozled with this idea of being fiercely independent, the way we're supposed to be.
Yes.
And I disagree with that.
I do too. And for many years, I subscribed to that notion that you're more powerful when you don't have to depend on anybody else, when you don't have to ask anybody else for help. I believe that was a badge of power. But then as I got older and got wiser, I realized it was like invisible shackles
Mm,
holding you back in life and weighing you down. And
right.
one day I realized the weight was just too much for me to carry, and I needed to unload it. And that's when I started, letting God in
Right.
and, seeking his counsel, because this is something that most women probably won't admit, but you get so fiercely independent, you don't even think you need to lean on God anymore.
Exactly. And I believe that's the trick.
Hmm.
It's not so much of feeling like you don't need other people,
Hmm.
but when you spend so much time not relying on anyone else and only seemingly relying on yourself, then
Hmm.
it sort of lends itself and extends itself to God as well, right?
Yeah.
Which puts us in a place of sitting in pride because
Yes.
you did it.
Whoo, my
You
pride
did
was
it,
my
right?
pride was out of this world. That is why when I became 18, I never went back to my mama's house because
Mm,
my pride wouldn't let me. There were so many times in my life where the world was whipping my butt
hmm.
and I needed, my mom, but my sense of pride wouldn't let me, go back and tell her and ask her for help.
Right. Is your mother, is she still living now?
Yes, she's still living now. We have this, we have a relationship where we get along better now as adults
Hmm.
than when I was a child, because I was just so rebellious.
Right.
Mhm.
And angry, right? And
Yeah.
frustrated and confused, and you just don't know why. And
Hmm.
what I've learned is that in having to heal and allow God to restore the relationship between my mother and I had
Hmm.
to learn that she was a woman before she was a mother.
Yes.
Before she was a mother, and I posted on my Facebook page, I believe it was yesterday, a post that says I was studying the word, preparing for this woman's group discussion thing that
Hmm.
God is leading me to do,
Hmm.
where God showed me that He created us and gave us dominion before He formed us and gave us a position. And
Yeah.
I think it's important that we understand that we are women
Hmm.
before we became mothers,
Mm.
wives,
Yeah.
helpmeets, and all this other stuff. God created us male and female, right?
Hmm.
And gave us dominion. And
Hmm.
when I realized that my mom was a woman before she was ever a mother,
Yeah.
it allowed me to be able to see her differently and to be able to be compassionate,
Yeah.
to put and to see myself in her as well and go, my goodness,
Hmm.
think about what I've done with my own kids. Think about the mistakes I've made with my own children. Think about what could have happened had God not been covering me with my own not so great decisions. And I had to be able to extend grace.
That's exactly it. Once you become a parent, and we all have to tell our kids the same thing, you will not understand my standpoint until you become me.
Right.
Because you think I'm telling you something to hurt you. You think I'm telling you something to hinder you or to hold you back or to enforce my will over your life. And that's just not what it is. But you'll understand when you become a parent too. And
Exactly.
that's like you just said, I had to look back and I this was maybe like 3 months ago. I called my mom. It just hit me out of the blue, and I called her. And I tried to get through the conversation without breaking down and crying, but I just called her to tell her, I thank you so much, because all of the stuff you were trying to tell me was true and was real, but I couldn't see it, because of my own pride and what I wanted to do.
Right.
And she was so appreciative of just me calling her to tell her that.
Oh, isn't it I'm telling you, I understand that choked up feeling. I remember having to say to my mom, I release you from my anger.
Yeah.
And
not only you released her, you released you.
Exactly. And in order for me to begin my process, the Lord said, Angel, you're going to have to release her. You're going to have to let that go. And to see her just say, look, I've known you've been angry all these years, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
I've known you felt this way. I've known you've been angry. I've seen you acting all rebellious and funky and talking crazy to me, but just not knowing how to fix that. So it's a beautiful thing, right? So what are some other, have you seen any of the other writings that are going to be in the anthology from other women?
I haven't seen them all together, but talking to the women, they've shared their stories of what they're going to be, what they're including in the book.
Right.
And I got to watch some of them because they've been doing live, interviews with other platforms to talk about the book and what they're sharing in the book. So I got to watch some of those videos and see their stories. And I got choked up and emotional just watching them talk about their stories because, you hear that saying that you don't look like what you've been through. These women don't look like the stories they're going to share. Like one woman, she was like a month away from getting married to her fiance when he got murdered. And she went into a deep depression, but she wouldn't share it with anybody. She was trying to go through it all by herself. So she talks about that. We have one woman who lost a child. The baby was stillborn and she had to bury the child. And then within a year after that, her husband left her and said he didn't want to, do it anymore. So she's sharing that story. We have one woman in there. She's talking about how all her life she never felt supported by her family. So she went into, extreme isolation and depression and suicidal thoughts. Because she said the one time she did reach out to a family member for help, they talked about her so bad to the rest of the family till she just isolated inside of herself. And she talks about the danger of isolating and not reaching out to people and not having somebody to, support you, and how the enemy will take that isolation and use it against you and tell you that life is not worth it. You may as well go ahead and leave this earth. It's too much pain. It's too much heartache. You'll be better on the other side. And so she got caught up in that. So she talks about how she was able to get out of that. But the most important part of all of their stories is they give it all the credit to God, to their relationship with God, or even like losing their relationship and finding it again. So they give the credit to, God. That was the important element that I wanted to have in the book, is for everybody to, make sure they understand who got them through that.
Right. I think that's important, especially as Christian authors, that with all of the stories that we tell, that we make sure that the reader understands that the glory goes one way. The glory goes one way.
And it's important for us Christians to understand that being a Christian and loving God does not exempt you from the sorrows and the pains and the trials and tribulations of the world. Just because you've gone through depression or suicidal thoughts doesn't make you less of a Christian. It doesn't make God love you any less, because you still have to go through this life in the flesh, and all kinds of things are going to afflict you in the flesh.
Right.
It's just not losing sight of who's able to get you out of it is just a bigger issue.
Exactly. I'm already excited to get my copy. Because these sound like some amazing stories. Prayerfully, I'll get an opportunity to share some of these stories here on Speak Up Sis Talk Radio once the book is released and I can read it and possibly bring some of these beautiful writers on to this platform and share their stories. I would like to talk a little bit about the process of creating your anthology. How did you go about that? If you don't mind sharing a little bit of the process.
Yeah. So the publisher of the book, her name is Alandria Lloyd, and she has her own publishing company, and she specializes in these type of projects, women sharing their true life testimonies. She's a best-selling author, and the first project that we did together was called Dear Young Woman, and that went to the bestseller list on Amazon. But she approached me and she asked me, would I be interested in gathering my own group of women to do an anthology? And I would be in charge of, the vision of it, getting the women together. So whenever the women do come in and say they want to be a part of the project, then they sign up. They sign a contract with her publishing company to get everything edited and put together. So I just got the email yesterday that the last edits are done and that if we approve them, they're going to go to printing. So everything is going through her company, which is called the Writer's Block LLC, which is a publishing company that she built from the ground up on her own when she became an author. And she realized she had a gift to where she can teach other women how to do it. She has some courses that she teaches women how to write their own book in 30 days or less and to get it published and stuff like that. So that was the process. I was basically in charge of getting the women together, vetting them out and finding out what their stories are and then getting them in contact with her.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I personally, as an indie author myself, I've written 3 books and self-published them, but I've never actually worked within an anthology. I attempted to do something similar prior to when I met him, which is my newest book, because I was running from having to tell those stories.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just get some other people to tell their stories and put them all together. But God said, so you're going to tell your own story so you can get free. So I did that. So I think it's interesting to hear about how the anthologies work, because I've been seeing more and more women become authors initially in that way prior to them getting to a point where they write their own books for themselves. The anthology sort of gives them this opportunity to test out their writing chops.
Because you don't feel so much pressure to write your own full book yourself. You're in it with other women who are probably also first-time authors as well. So you get to support each other and help each other and not feeling so nervous about it and everything like that. So that was a good step for me. When I did the first anthology, I didn't feel so intimidated and overwhelmed, and I was only responsible for one chapter of the book. But then once I started writing my chapter, I realized I really do need to write my own book because I can't fit everything into this one chapter. I have so many other stories I want to tell.
That's what I was going to ask you next, because you said you were a part of an anthology and now you have sort of created your own anthology with other women. So when is Erica Warren's book, just solo book, when is it coming?
Oh my goodness. I've started on like some chapters. I've written some chapters and I've been like all over the place with what I really want to write about? Like, do I want to start from childhood and kind of bring up to present day? I also wanted to write a book about like the last maybe 5 years of my life, being a single woman in her 40s now, and actually dating, which is something that I've never done before. Like all in my 20s and 30s, never dated. I was just always either in a relationship or married.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a totally new experience for me. So I kind of wanted to do that, where I go through the process of getting divorced and getting out into the single world again, and really dating like I should have done in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of women would be interested in that, because I think a lot of women find themselves in that same situation where you've been through a marriage, it didn't work out. Now you're really getting in touch with who you are, and now you're dating the right way. But it's so much different now in this day and age and time with online dating and all of that stuff. So maybe I should have dated in my 20s.
Maybe we all should have done that, because listen, I met my husband at 23 and was married at 24, and married and children and all those things. And so just like you, I find myself in my 40s, been divorced for several years now, and in this place again. So I don't know, I've thought about that as well. I think if I ever decide to write about this chapter of my life, it'll be once I'm remarried and have been in it for just a little while, and maybe I'll be willing to share the process. I when it comes to writing and actually publishing and putting it out to people, I like to be able to leave people with hope.
Yeah.
And so for me, writing about the dating process at 40 something, not having gotten to the place of remarriage, which is my heart's desire, I just feel like I would leave them.
Right. Hanging.
Yeah.
I was looking at it a different way. I was looking at it like, I want to share some of my stories with y'all, some of the shenanigans I went through, to kind of put a funny spin on it, but to also let you know you're not going through this by yourself. Because a lot of women think that their situation is unique, and that I'm meeting all of the duds and this dating thing doesn't work. And I have a singles women group where we talk about it, and a lot of them get so discouraged, and they just say, I'm done with it. I want to deal with it no more. And I try to put a positive spin on it to let them know it's really just a process. I mean, it's just a learning process. If you go in thinking that this should turn into something, and if it doesn't, that's where your disappointment comes in. But look at it as just a learning process. Like, you just learn who you don't like, and you learn more about yourself, and you learn more about people. I've been looking at dating as like a learning process, and I've learned so much about men just going on dates and not expecting nothing out of it. I've gotten a lot of male friendships out of it, just dating. So I look at it like I didn't lose anything. I learned something new.
Right. I think that's a good perspective. It's a wonderful perspective. And I think we all have to just be gentle with ourselves. Understand that, God's work and his hand in our lives will be just as unique as all of us. You know what I'm saying? And so, and we can appreciate that. I guess when I met him sort of is my dating book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a happy ending there as well, but but who knows? But listen, Erica, it has been a blessing to have you in this space with me today. I'm sure the Speak Up Sis Talk Radio audience has thoroughly enjoyed having you here in this space. Please tell us how we can connect with you, and for anyone who would like to be able to pre-order and all, please give us all of the contact information.
All right. So you can find me on Facebook. My name is Erica Warren. You can just search for that and find me there. I also have an author's page, which it's just called Author Erica Warren. So if you type that in, I should come up. You should see a red shirt. Just click on that and follow me. I put all of my books and release dates there.
That's what's up. Thank you so much, Erica, for joining us at Speak Up Sis Talk Radio today. I really appreciate you. So listen, everyone, you all have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
All right, everyone. We're done for the day. I appreciate your time and ear. I thank you for tuning in to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, where Christian authors have an opportunity to share their stories to inspire yours. Please visit me online at speakupsis.com. Follow me on Facebook at Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, Instagram at speak.up.sis, Twitter at Speak Up Sis. You can even email if you just like to give feedback on today's show. Email contact@speakupsis.com. Until next time, have a beautiful day. Be blessed. Bye.